Hello, I am Thomás Daniel Vieira, and I am a software automation engineer at DB Services Portugal, and I am here today for a session of our QA Academy. It's a moment where we will share a little of our knowledge with the global community of developers. Our topic today will be automated testing with Robot Framework. My goal is to build a simple script for the first practical hello world with the tool. Why talk about test automation? Well, I don't want to talk too much about theory, but it's important to contextualize that the quality strategy is important to the success of an agile software development team. That is, to make small, frequent, and quality deliveries. Not everything must be automated, but at least acceptance tests for each functionality must be coverage consistent. And why Harvard Framework? The tool was recommended by Marcus Gartner in his book ATDD by example. And like in other tools, it has advantages and disadvantages depending on the context. However, its popularity is increasing considerably. One of the main advantages of the tool is the possibility of building scripts for different types and levels of tests, such as web test interface, mobile, desktop, service API tests, database tests, and many other tests. This is possible by hot add-on libraries. The framework has a good active community and a large ecosystem around it, resulting in a several generic libraries and tools. Almost never we will not find an existing library to meet our needs, but if necessary, we can create new custom libraries using the Python language. Furthermore, the user can write test scenarios in natural language, like Gherkin, which in addition to improving the readability of the source code, makes it easier for learning. To work with Robot Framework, you initially need to prepare the development environment, a task that will be quite simple. The robot is made with Python, so it's necessary to have Python correctly installed in your machine. I have Python in version 3 here. To find out your version, use the command python version. My code editor will be Visual Studio Code, but it's also possible to work with Atom, PyCharm, and many others. Using the terminal built in Visual Studio Code, we will use pip to install the Robot Framework library. The command is pip install, and then just run Robot Framework version to check that we have the tool correctly installed. In my case, I am using version 6 and I recommend that you use this one too, which is the latest stable version. Our example will be done in a website. For this, we will need the web automation tool like Selenium WebDriver. There is a library for working with Selenium in Robot Framework, and installation is also done with pip. To make sure that we have an executable of our WebDriver installed on our machine and available in the path environment variable, we can check what version of our driver is. In my case, as I use Firefox browser, I will look for Gecko driver. With everything prepared, we can begin, and let's go. I will leave the slideshow aside for a bit and work directly with my screen to take a more hands-on approach. As the weather is not good here today, my problem is validating the weather forecast on Google. I have read opened a blank directory here in my code editor, and we will start completely from zero, creating the first .hobbit file where we will write our first test. In fact, we generally follow the conventions and style guide of the Python language, which is the technology on which the library is built. I will use the underlying suffix test, which is the convention for tests, and the standard Hobbit extension .hobbit. A test case file is organized into sections, settings, test case, variables, keywords, etc. We will start with the settings section, where we must import the libraries we will use. Note that there are two spaces between the reserved keyword and the library name. Hobbit uses positional syntax based on spaces or tabs. Elements are separated by tabs or two spaces or more. Now, you have to pay attention to the spaces. It sometimes gets confused. Now we can create our first test scenario. The test scenario steps must be in test case session, and naturally, the first script action we should open the browser, and we will do it. Test case section, and we have to create a scenario name. For example, weather for Portland. And then open browser. Now, with just these lines of code, we can run our script for the first time and check that everything is working correctly. Let's run the script with Hobbit command line. I will use the optional parameter d to define the report file's destination and the file name. Well done. It's okay. But the browser was not closed at the end of the execution, and this could cause memory problems. Let's add the close browser command to the end of our test. Now, we need to enter text in the Google search field and press enter. But before, we have to go to the Google website. Google to go to Google website. But first, we need to map the element on the screen. Using the browser inspection tool, it's possible to identify the HTML element that represents the text field. It has the name attribute here. The name or AD attributes are perfect for mapping elements. So input text to element with name key and write weather for Porto Alegre. And then we have to press the return key. Let's go. Oops, we got an error. But why? Mappings must not have quotation marks. Let's fix it and try again. But another detail that we were able to see here after this failure is that our browser did not close automatically after execution was as we expected. We have to close it. This occurred because the execution flow was interrupted before the close browser command. Fortunately, there is a way to ensure that the browser is closed at the end of execution even if something fails, using the test teardown command, which must be in setting sections. Services to define that a certain command is execution and conditional after each test scenario. Let's try again. Well done. Finally, we need some validations. Let's try the simplest one to check that certain things will appear on the screen. We can use wait until page contains resultados para Porto Alegre. And element text should be, let's see, Mhm. Let's get the ID of this label. And the text, well, mhm. Well, let's try again. Let's take a look. Oh yes, everything's okay. Let's take a look at the reporter with Google Chrome. Everything passed. We can look all the keywords and steps in details. That's very good. But we can improve our code with variables for increment readability. Let's do it. Variable section. And we can create some variables with expressive names. Okay, let's try again. It's easier to read, no? And still pass. We can change here. Yeah. And we can rewrite the test with new keywords if we want to use Gherkin syntax. We will need another section, keywords. And let's rewrite this. Given I want check the weather forecast for Porto Alegre. When I search it on Google, then I should see the pop-up. I should see the weather information for Porto Alegre. Quite simple. This is a new keyword. This one is another keyword, and this one another keyword. We can separate things. And well, let's try again. It's okay. Let's take a look at the logs. We can read here our user history in details. And we can create separate resources. And change some things. We can need to change here. Well, we don't need it here anymore. And this we can change. Much better to read, no? Let's try again. Very good. This is a very simple example to introduce the tool, but there were many interesting features and possibilities to explore. For example, we can separate page objects of the page, but I recommend that you visit the Robot Framework official documentation or read the book Robot Framework, Automação Versátil e Consistente para Testes, that I released by Casa do Código from Brazil to continue your studies in automation with Robot. That's it. Good night and thank you.